Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're having a really good Friday so far. I hope you're enjoying the day, whether it's cold or warm or snowy or hot or rainy, wherever you are. I hope that you are having a really, really good day. As you know, I'll be starting in about 23 seconds once I double check everything and make sure everything is working. I see Todd and Dave are here. That's awesome. Good to see you too. It's a lot of fun to be here again on a Friday morning doing an English lesson about advice. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get the lesson started in about 1 second. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about advice. It's actually a lesson where I think many of you will see a lot of familiar phrases. There was a little bit of a hint in the thumbnail. If you noticed in the thumbnail, there was an egg and a chick. Maybe that's related to an English phrase that we sometimes say to give people advice. And then there was a glass of milk that had fallen over and had spilt. And maybe that's related to an idiom, phrase, or saying that we use in English. But this English lesson, I think you will find interesting, even if it's just review for you. I think you will enjoy the phrases that we are going to look at. And again, learning a language is about learning new things, but sometimes it's about enjoying the things you already know and practicing and reviewing them a little bit. So again, I look forward to teaching you some phrases, proverbs, idioms, whatever you want to call them, things we say in English when we give people advice. And I'll tell you which ones we still use and which ones are maybe a little bit old and aren't used as much anymore. Before we get started, though, I do want to say hi to all of the people in the chat. Let me do one more audio check as well. Looks great. I want to say hi to Mode Eggs, to Audie the Thai. Lemon Cute is here as well. I see that Key Park said hi earlier. Lolly is here. Freddie Wolf is here as well. Let me scroll back. Wanda, Audie, Nguyen. It's hard for me to say some things. Let me scroll back and see a few more names. And then I will get the lesson started. Nosal, Bonsan are here as well. And Nayahin. It's so cool. I should do a little bit of self-study on names around the world and how to pronounce them. I think that would really help me as I continue to teach English here on YouTube. A couple things before we start. As many of you know, please use the chat for good English conversations. Please, if you have a question about the topic, use the form that is linked in the chat, which I also forgot to link in the description below. So I'm going to do that for a minute. I'm just going to take a moment to make sure that if you have a question, you can find that link down there as well. It just takes me a moment if I click the right keys, and then that will be done. But, I must have hit the right arrow key and accidentally showed you the first phrase. So why don't we get started on this lesson? Don't bite off more than you can chew is the first one. This phrase simply means don't try to do too much work in one day. Don't try to do more than you are able to do when you are doing a job or a task. It's related, literally, it would mean don't bite something so that you have so much food in your mouth you can't chew it. But what we actually mean when we say this is, don't try to do something that's beyond your capabilities. A good example would be if you went skiing for the first time, and if you went down the little hill to learn how to ski, we call it the bunny hill, that would be a good idea. If when you put the skis on for the first time, you went to the top of the highest mountain, we would say that you would be biting off more than you can chew. So again, when you bite off more than you can chew, you try to do something that's beyond your current abilities to do. It would be like taking an English C1 test when you've only had 2 or 3 English conversations in your whole life. Practice makes perfect. This is one of my favorite ones that we use when talking about how to get really good at something, and it's definitely related to speaking English. The more you practice something, the better you get at it. The more you read, the better you get at reading. The more you speak and have English conversations, the better you get at it. So if you want to perfect something, let's say you want to make really good pizza dough. You're not going to succeed on your first attempt, but if you practice, if you do it over and over again, eventually you will make perfect pizza dough. So this is advice we give when someone's trying to do something perfectly and they haven't really practiced enough. We would say, hey, practice makes perfect. Maybe spend a little more time practicing. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. So this is a really interesting one as well. It means don't expect something to happen and don't be sure about something until you actually see the results. Here's a great example. The first job I got, I thought I was making $5 an hour and I worked 30 hours. So I thought I would be getting $150 on my paycheck. So I expected $150, but on a paycheck, there are deductions. You have to pay tax and you have to pay other fees. So I ended up only getting $120. I had counted my chickens before they hatched. I had expected something to happen, but I should have waited to actually see the results. So that's what don't count your chickens before they hatch mean. Let's see here. Actions speak louder than words. This is one of my favorite sayings. And it's not so much advice as just a description of how life works. The best example of this would be when a politician, when a leader, when someone in government says they're going to do something, that's nice. But when they actually do it, that makes you trust them and like them more. If I said to you, I'm going to do 8 live streams every day for 5 days, and then I didn't do it, that would break the trust between us. But if I actually, by the way, I'm not doing that. That would be too many live streams. But if you say you're going to do something, that's cool. But then if you actually do it, that makes people trust you more, like you more, and respect you more. A penny saved is a penny earned. So, by the way, I was going to mention which of these phrases we use. People like me who are teachers do say these phrases sometimes. You will hear these phrases on TV, in movies. They're not super common, though, in everyday English. Like the last time I said a penny saved is a penny earned is probably like 6 months ago. What this phrase means is that if you don't spend your money, it's like you've earned more money, right? If you spend all your money, it's gone. But if you don't spend your money, it means you still have it. So it's a little bit like earning extra money. If you make $100 a week and you spend $100 a week, you haven't saved any money. But if you make $100 a week and you save $50 a week, it's like you're putting $50 away for the future. So it's a phrase we use to encourage people to not spend money. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Is this the second chicken-related one? When we say don't put all of your eggs in one basket, I've actually used this phrase a few times in the last year, by the way. It means don't trust one thing or one situation for everything that you need. So let's look at what would be a good example of this. Let's say that you have some money and you want to invest that money. Maybe your brother is starting a business. The bank will give you some interest on the money, and you could also buy some stocks on the stock market. If you gave all the money to your brother, you would be putting all your eggs in one basket, which isn't really a good idea. If you gave your brother some money or lent your brother some money, and you put some in the bank and you bought some stocks, you would be putting all your eggs in different baskets, which can be a good thing sometimes. Don't judge a book by its cover. This guy looks rough and he looks tough and he has his hood on and you might be afraid of him, but he might be a really, really nice person. When we say don't judge a book by its cover, what we're saying is don't think a person or a situation or thing is a certain way until you actually get to know the person or experience the situation or use the thing that you're talking about. Sometimes we're quick to think people are a certain way or to think a situation is a certain way, and we judge the book by its cover. Sometimes it's good to just have a few conversations with people and find out that they're actually very nice people and cool to hang around with. The early bird gets the worm. So in the morning, when there's worms on the ground, the birds who come first get to have the worms. We do say this phrase. I have used this phrase quite a bit. It basically is used to tell someone that if you're first in line, if you get up early to go do something or get something, you will probably be rewarded. A good example would probably be when people were trying to book an appointment to get vaccinated. The earlier you got up each day and went on your computer to book an appointment, the more likely you were to get an appointment. Okay. Sometimes when you get up early, it's a good thing. Maybe you want to go see a concert. Maybe you want to go see a band that you really, really love. And so you get up at 3 a.m. to go and sit at your computer to try and buy tickets. You are probably more likely to get a ticket because the early bird gets the worm. Basically, it just means if you get up early, you're more likely to have success getting what you want. And then don't cry over spilt milk. So I use the word spilt. You could also use spilled. I think in British English, they would use spilled. Don't cry over spilt milk. Obviously, sometimes when you have water or milk in a glass, sometimes it falls over and it spills. What this phrase means, though, is don't think about something bad that happened to you yesterday or the day before, because there's nothing you can do about it. So, for instance, let's say I backed into another car in a parking lot and my car had a dent in it. I would probably be upset that day, but the next day I would be less upset. And then by the third day, I would just get it fixed and I would move on. But if every day I was still angry and upset and annoyed because I had dented my car, I would be crying over spilt milk. At some point in time, when something happens, you just have to move on. That means forget about it and do new things. And you just need to, move on and forget about it a little bit. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. So this is kind of a funny one because we don't have horses anymore. And this is a really old phrase, but it basically means this. If someone gives you something and it doesn't cost you anything, if someone gives you a gift, you shouldn't complain about the gift. When I was younger, my parents gave me a car. And then when they gave me the car, there were certain things wrong with it. It needed new tires and there were a few other defects. But I didn't complain about it because they gave me the car for free. If I had bought the car, I might have complained a little bit, but they gave me the car. So instead of complaining, I just said, thank you. So when you say don't look a gift horse in the mouth, basically what you're saying is don't complain if someone gives you something for free. Hey, let's look at some comments. Give me a second here to get that up on the screen. Here we go. Let me do an audio check in the meantime as well. And let's see here. What do we got? Yaroslav says, morning, the wisest teacher, Bob. I just want to say that your pieces of advice were really helpful for me. It made my English way better. Have a great live. Well, thank you, Yaroslav. I do tend to give out a little bit of advice, don't I, when I'm teaching these live English classes. Usually it's things like practice makes perfect, or make a schedule, or commit to studying English for at least 30 minutes to an hour every day for 5 or 6 days a week. Do some reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Those are all the pieces of advice I normally give. Ruslan, hi, Teacher Bob. How are you? What's your advice how not to get stuck in a snowdrift? I always have trouble driving my low clearance sedan, even with winter tires. Well, avoid the snowdrift. Only drive when you need to. Around here as well, there are roads that we know are safer in the winter than other roads. So know your area. I know that the way I normally go to school, the fastest way, is not the safest way in the winter. And then you can't do this, but get a four-wheel drive vehicle. I used to have a four-wheel drive vehicle and I loved it. So certainly sedans or four-door cars that sit low, I can see that would be a little bit tricky. So let me see here. I'm going to skip the next question because it's not related. Let's see here. Juan says, greetings from Arequipa, Peru, South America. I am happy to be here with you. Have a great day and weekend. You too. And the next question is from, or comment is from Sukaina Ahmed. What are the meaning of burn the candle at both ends and shape up or ship out? Have a great weekend. So when you burn the candle at both ends, it means you're working hard and you're working a lot of hours. Usually late into the afternoon and into the evening in particular. If you were a student and you were studying for an exam, and if you stayed up till 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, we would say that you're burning the candle at both ends. If you also work extra hard and do extra tasks, like let's say I worked my day job and then I had another job after work and I was doing YouTube, you would say I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm using more energy than I actually have to do what I'm doing. And shape up or ship out simply means work harder or you're going to lose your job. Like if your boss says shape up or ship out, what they're saying is do a better job or you won't have a job. That's what that means. Let's see here. I'm going to skip. So I'm going to skip questions that aren't related to the topic. Let's see here. Judith says, a community request. Hi, Bob. I asked for the moon when I'd like mowed eggs to teach French on YouTube. Do you agree? He should start a YouTube channel. I think that would be great. Fyodor says, hello, Bob. Can you give a few examples of how to start a sentence where you are giving advice to somebody without sounding rude or hurtful? Yeah, so you do need to know a person well in order to give advice. And sometimes there's no real way to say it softly. But I would just say, like if I wanted to say, like let's say a student failed a test, I would probably say to them, let's not stress about this too much. I might say, don't cry over spilt milk, although using the word cry with students, you don't want to use emotional words with them. But I would certainly say, let's focus on what's next. Let's remember that practice makes perfect. And I think that if you work hard at this, you can be successful. I would say if you give someone advice that's very direct, you should also tell them what they can do to solve that. Hopefully that made sense, Fyodor. Let's see here. DG is asking for some advice. Hello, Bob. My question is, how much time per day should I practice English to make it perfect? So if you have lots of time, 2 hours a day. If you are someone who has a job or you're in school, an hour a day is great. If you're very, very busy, at least 30 minutes a day. That would be my recommendation. And then make sure you're doing all 4 things like reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Make sure you get practice in all of those. Pablo says, hi, Bob. And Ken says, hi, Mr. Bob. What advice would you give to someone if they have a habit of procrastination like me? Well, that's a tricky one because I myself in the past have been a procrastinator. I would say this. Sometimes it's best to make a list of all the things you have to do that day. When I make a list, I'm more likely to get to work right away. Sometimes when I make a list, I do the hard things on the list first so that every job after that gets easier. And then the other thing you could do is you could do the easy jobs first to kind of ease your way in. And the other thing I would say is you have to get to the point, just get started. I mentioned this in another video. Sometimes I don't feel like exercising, but if I just say, oh, I'll just go for a 5-minute walk, it usually ends up being a 40-minute walk. So just get started. And then we'll do one more question and then we'll move on. Ahmed says, how can I advise myself to speak English like a native? So don't worry about speaking like a native. Worry about just reducing your accent enough to be understood. And if you want to improve in one of the 4 areas, do that thing more. So if you want to be better at reading, read more. If you want to be better at speaking, find more opportunities to speak. Sometimes that's a challenge, but that definitely is a helpful thing to do. I do want to say hi to the 388 people watching. By the way, if you're not a subscriber, you can click that red subscribe button. I do want to once again say thank you to all of the people who have subscribed in the past. I'm over 1 million subscribers now. I'm still in shock about that, but thank you so much for doing that. Let's get back to the lesson. I think you could figure this one out. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Basically, what this means is if you eat healthy food, you won't have to go to the doctor as often, if at all. I know for myself, when I eat lots of vegetables, when I eat the right amount of food, when I don't overeat, I feel better and I'm healthier. So this basically means that if you eat healthy food, you will be healthier. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Look before you leap. This is a piece of advice that you give to people when they're making a change in life. Like, let's say someone has a job and they want to work at another company. You might say, before you switch jobs, you should look before you leap. You should find out a little bit more what that new job is like. Maybe talk to someone who works there. Do some research. Let's say you're thinking about taking an online English class. There are a lot of English teachers that offer online courses. You shouldn't just pick the first one that you see. You should definitely research. You should look before you leap. You should definitely research a few different teachers and pick one that you think is best for you. Good things come to those who wait. These bears are waiting for fish. They're waiting for salmon. When you say good things come to those who wait, you're basically saying, be patient. For instance, learning a language like English. If you've been studying English for 2 months, I would say, hey, be patient. It takes a year or 2 to really make progress when you're learning a language. So I would say good things come to those who wait. So it basically means be patient, do the work, but be patient, and eventually you will be rewarded. I think the same with exercise. The more you exercise and the longer you exercise, the healthier you are. So always a good thing. Early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. Again, some of these are phrases that you will see in a book, you will hear on TV. We don't use them very often. I always think that's one of the things that's funny about some of these phrases or proverbs or sayings, is some of them are things you learn early on when you're learning English, but they're not always as common as you might think. But this basically means if you go to bed on time, and if you get up early, you will be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So you will feel great, you will have lots of money, and you will be very, very wise. So very smart and very wise about the world. But I don't know if this works. We'll have to see. I think when I'm 70, I will decide whether I believe this or not. I'll wait until I'm old and look back on my whole life and then decide. Don't add insult to injury. You will hear this phrase. This lady is actually giving a hand gesture that means the same as F off. That's the soft way. I don't want to say the actual word. When you say don't add insult to injury, it means that something bad has already happened to someone. So don't say something or do something that makes it worse. So for instance, it can just happen in life. Maybe you get fired from your job, and then on the way home, to add insult to injury, you get in a car accident. That would be an example of, a bad thing happened and then another bad thing happened. When we give this phrase as advice, what we're saying to people is, if someone has an accident, don't laugh at them. If something goes wrong in someone's life, don't make fun of them. So don't make the situation worse by doing something that's mean or saying something that's mean. Rome wasn't built in a day. Let me make this one bigger. Not sure if you can see Rome. We use this phrase as well to comment on a project or task that takes a long time, and if someone is being a little bit impatient. So if someone said, I studied English for 3 weeks and I still can't speak English, we would say, hey, whoa. Rome wasn't built in a day. Just be patient, do your lessons, watch YouTube videos. Eventually you will make progress, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Sometimes people are anxious. Maybe they're at the gym and they lift 10 pounds and then they try to lift 50 pounds. You might say, whoa, you just started lifting weights. Rome wasn't built in a day. Just take it easy, slow down a bit. Strike while the iron is hot. So we obviously don't work with metal by hand very often anymore in the world, but when you heat up metal, it becomes soft, and that's the best time to hit it with a hammer and change its shape. So we use this phrase to talk about in life, sometimes you have to do something at the right moment. You need to strike while the iron is hot. Let's say you did want to work somewhere and you heard that 2 people just got fired and they're hiring someone. You want to strike while the iron is hot. You want to get your CV or application into that company as quickly as possible. So it basically means act at the time when it's good to act in a certain situation. Strike while the iron is hot. So this is a funny one for me. This one always makes me laugh. I'm going to teach you 2 of these right in a row. Too many cooks spoil the broth means if too many people work on the same thing, sometimes it doesn't turn out very good. If 10 people try to build a chair all at the same time, the chair might end up not being built very well. So when you say too many cooks spoil the broth, you're saying when too many people work on the same thing, sometimes that isn't good. By the way, broth is like soup. It's soup with no noodles, no vegetables. It's just a clear broth. We sometimes drink chicken broth at night, and it's really, really yummy. The other phrase is this one. Many hands make light work. So this is kind of the opposite. Basically, what this phrase means is if a lot of people all help to do the same thing, the job is easier and it's more fun and it will go faster. So 2 phrases that kind of mean the opposite of each other. Too many cooks spoil the broth means if too many people do something, it can be bad. Many hands make light work means if a lot of people do the same thing, the job can be easier. I think it simply depends on the job. There are certain jobs where too many cooks spoil the broth, and there are certain jobs where many hands make light work. There are many jobs on the farm where if Jen and I and our older kids all do it at the same time, this phrase would be very, very true. Honesty is the best policy. So this is a phrase that's commonly used in business. When you sell something, when you charge people money for a service, you can be dishonest because you want to make lots of money. But in the business world, it's actually considered, in the long run, honesty is the best policy. If you cheat people, if you steal from people, if you lie to people, eventually that's bad for your business. Sometimes people who lie and cheat and steal when they're running a business it actually helps them for the first little bit. But eventually, I would say this, honesty is the best policy, especially in business. If you are honest to people, if you help people, if you provide a good service, people will trust you and they will ask you to do more work for them in the future. Where there's a will, there's a way. Here, let me just fire my camera back up for a sec. Where there's a will, there's a way. What this means is that if you are determined to do something, If you have decided that no matter what, you are going to accomplish something, you have a lot of willpower. You have a lot of will. Where there's a will, there's a way. So maybe you need to do something that's really, really hard. These kids are moving a big bale of hay, but they look very determined. So basically what we're saying is, if you convince yourself you can do something, you're able to do it. Learning English is a very difficult thing to do, but if you have the willpower, if you have a will to learn English, you can do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. I think there's a number of variations on this. This little animal coming out of the ground is called a mole. In my part of Canada, we say, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. And it means don't exaggerate something that's happened to you, okay? So let's say I'm driving my car and I go in the ditch, but I don't get hurt and the car doesn't get damaged and I just drive back out of the ditch. If I came home and described that to Jen like it was the most horrific thing that had happened to me that day, I would be making a mountain out of a molehill. So basically what it means is, if something bad happens to you, something small, don't talk about it like it was the worst thing in the world that happened to you. That's what that phrase would mean. Better late than never. This is a phrase that applies to students quite a bit. It basically means, let's say you need to do something and you need to have it done by 4 o'clock and you finish it at 4:30. Well, it's still done. You did the job. It's late, but it's better to be late than to not do it. Sometimes students hand work in a day late, and I say, well, better late than never. What I mean by that is, I would rather they hand it in a day late than not do it at all. It is always better to finish something, especially if you're a student, than to not do it at all. Hey, let's go into members only chat mode. I know we have, I didn't actually see the number, but let me just get this changed here and let me flip back to here and let me cough for a sec. One moment. I'll go off screen. Just had a little tickle in my throat. If you are a member, you can ask a question directly in the chat right now. And I will also, let's see here. I will also keep answering questions over here as well. I do want to thank all of my members, though. You guys help make this work. And if you are a member, you get to ask questions directly in the chat. I don't know where the chat is on your screen, during live streams for 10 minutes. And you get an extra video on Wednesdays. And every Tuesday video comes with a complete transcript. So you get some little perks there. Leva says, hello, sir. I have a very common question, but haven't found a good answer. Question is that I don't feel confident while speaking. What should I do? So the advice I almost always give in this situation is this: hire someone using a website like Preply. There is a link below in the description, or iCambly or Cambly or italki. Hire someone to help you with English conversations, someone who's not your friend, not your boss, not your colleague. You know, someone who, when you make mistakes, you're not worried about it. And make sure you're spending 30 minutes a week having English conversations with that person. That will really, really help build your confidence when you have conversations with other people, for sure. Let's see here. I'll go here and then I'll go to the chat for Lolly. Nahid says, here's an advice: shovel the snow when they're fresh. I learned the hard way after the last snowstorm. Yes, you should always shovel snow the day it falls or the day after, because snow falls and it piles up. And if the snow is this thick the day it falls, within a day or two, it starts to settle down. So it starts to get harder and more difficult to shovel. When the snow first falls, it's very light, it's very fluffy. And I mean, it's a lot of work to shovel it, but it's a lot easier to shovel light, fluffy snow that's this deep than snow that has been driven on or settled by itself. Lolly says, better late than never. My boss doesn't agree. Yeah, it changes a little when you're in the work world. Sometimes the boss wants it done exactly on time. Key Park says, I have a giant bite more than I can chew in today's lesson. Yes, this lesson might be, you might have bitten off more than you can chew with this lesson, but you can always watch it again in a couple of days. That might help. Audie the Thai message. Oh, not sure what happened there, Audie. Freddie says, hi, Bob. Just some advice. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. 2 hands are better than 1. The more foul, the merrier they are. Have a great day. Great phrases, yes. I particularly like the one, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't totally agree with that, but I do find the older one gets, the harder it is sometimes to learn new things. Modag says, bonjour, le fameux Monsieur Bob. Bonjour, famous Mr. Bob. Are you going to do better safe than sorry? I think I am. I think I have a picture of someone putting a seatbelt on. And one more that might not be on topic, but you can make an exception for me, right? Shape up versus straighten up. Yeah, shape up or straighten up. We would use shape up. And we kind of tied into that with the shape up or ship out. Basically, shape up means, do a better job. If a student isn't doing their work, or if someone at work isn't doing their work, you might say, hey, shape up. Guhan, my teacher accidentally muted herself during class. I told her she got muted after a few minutes. She said, why did no one tell me earlier? And then I said, better late than never. My teacher is mad. Yeah, sometimes teachers forget things. I'm not sure if she's really mad, though. I'm sure she appreciated that you told her. Let's see here. Dave has retrieved Audie's comment. Hi, Teacher Bob. In my mind, this live stream is another best one that I watched and another one I will watch and learned it more than 3 times. And I think I will watch more and more. Thanks, Audie. That is awesome. Repetition. Should that be the phrase? Repetition makes perfect. Maybe that's the language learning version of practice makes perfect. Nguyen says, what do you think about when your younger person advises an older one? I like that. But I've always liked technology. And a lot of times younger people know more about technology than older people. So I always welcome advice from younger people, especially if it's about technology. Lancastre Andrew Miller. Hello, Bob. How are you? And what does it mean? Along for the ride and cut me some slack. Have a good one. When you're along for the ride, you're not actually doing a lot. You're just there to watch and learn. And cut me some slack means stop being so hard on me. Let's see here. Let's get another question. Nat. Hi, Bob. What is blue-handed? This is from the movie We Caught You Blue-Handed, The Legend of Vox Machina. We have the phrase to be caught red-handed, which means to be like if you're stealing money at work and someone catches you actually taking money, we would say you got caught red-handed. It means you got caught doing the thing you weren't supposed to. But I'm not familiar with blue-handed. Maybe it was specific to that movie. Kimi and Kiwi from Korea. Hello, guys. Hi, Bob. What was the worst advice you received from someone? Do you tend to ask people for advice? Thanks. So the second question, I do sometimes ask people for advice. It depends on what it's about. When I started farming, I asked my neighbors for a lot of advice about farming, and I ask Jen's dad a lot for advice. As you know, my dad passed away many years ago. So when I have a life question, sometimes I will ask Jen's dad for advice. And what's the worst advice you received from someone? I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't think I can think of anything at the moment. So I'm going to move on. Let's see here. Freddie Wolf says, Bob, no questions today. I hope you aren't still buried under a thick blanket of snow. Yes, we are, but it's a snow day again today, so I don't have to go to work. So I'm going to go clean the driveway after this lesson. Wanda, I was translating the music my way, and there was an expression, bit off more than I can chew. Exactly what you taught us. Yes, there you go. And with the mirror, we have, hello, teacher. I hope you're doing well. I have a question. I have seen her. What does it mean? I had have seen her. It's a little out of context, so it's hard for me to actually know what that would mean. So I would need to see more. So sorry about it. Maybe put it in a comment and I'll see if I can address that later. Mode Eggs, advice about technology from a younger person. Why don't you pin the link in chat instead of having it in the description box? Don't mean to be the backseat driver, just a suggestion. I should do that, shouldn't I? There's a little bit of a difficulty there though. I'm not going to explain now. Maybe I should mention it. It changes the amount of questions I get. That's what happens if I do that. Naomi, you can teach young at heart student like me English. Thank you, Teacher Bob. You are very, very welcome. Okay, let me get to my settings here for a moment. I will continue to answer members only questions for a minute or two, and then we'll get back to the lesson. Let me get the next question. Here we go. From Maylee. Hi, Teacher Bob. My American music teacher sometimes says right on the money when I played a tune quite right. What does that mean? It means you did it perfectly. When you say something's right on the money, it means you have done it perfectly and they are very happy. And if it's music, they're probably very happy with how you played the song perfectly. So good job, by the way. Let's see here. Anna says, hi, Mr. Bob. Thanks for great information. Are there some idioms like you can put it in the bank, and when is it appropriate to use it? Thank you. So I think the phrase you're looking to is it's like money in the bank. When you say something's like money in the bank, it's guaranteed that it will happen. Okay, so it's like a sure thing. And we use those idioms like all the time in regular conversation, informal conversations, formal conversations even. We will often use all of those. Hey, let's get back to the lesson. I just have a few slides here to go. Let's get back at it. Put your best foot forward. So this doesn't literally mean that if you're right-handed or right-footed that you put your right foot forward. It means that you do your best. You maybe play to your strengths, which means that you do the thing you're best at in a situation. Here's a good example. When you apply for a job, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to go to the job interview. You want to wear nice clothes. You want to speak clearly. You want to talk about the things that you are really good at. You want to put your best foot forward. So you want to make an impression on people and in a very positive way. Where am I here? This is the one that Mode was mentioning in the chat. It's better to be safe than sorry. We sometimes shorten it and just say better safe than sorry. What this means is there's little things we do in life to protect ourselves. There's little things we do in life that are sometimes annoying to remember to do, but it's better to do them because if something went wrong, you would feel sad or be sorry. A good example is a seatbelt. Sometimes it's a pain. It's annoying to remember to put your seatbelt on all the time. But if you forgot and then were in an accident and got hurt, you would feel dumb. You would feel sorry. You would be annoyed because you didn't put the seatbelt on. So when you say it's better to be safe than sorry, it means you do something even though it might be inconvenient or annoying because you know it's good. So it's better to just do it. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. This is a phrase that we use to talk about don't treat your boss or your parents or anyone who, helps you in life badly because they're the people that either pay you to work for them or give you food or let you live in their house. When someone in life gives you something, we always say, don't bite the hand that feeds you when we mean don't treat them badly. Don't yell at your boss. Don't be rude to your parents. If someone is giving you a paycheck every week, if someone lets you live in their house and feeds you like your parents, you should be nice to them. So don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't be mean to someone who's helping you make your life better and not charging you money for it. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you see 4 wheels here and one is saying squeak. I'll tell you this much, with farm equipment, when something squeaks, you put oil or grease on it. In life, when you're at work or at school, the person who complains a lot and regularly, eventually the boss or the teacher will help them. It's not always nice, but if you complain a lot, you usually get help. So I think that you've probably seen this happen either at school or at work. The person who complains the most usually gets the most attention and the most help. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. I like this one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes in life, things break and you need to fix it. Sometimes in life, something's working fine, but maybe you have a brother or a relative or a friend who just can't help but try to change things. This happens a lot with computers. Sometimes when you use a computer, it's working fine, nothing's broken, and then maybe your brother-in-law visits and says, oh, you should change this and change this. And he just starts clicking and changing everything on your computer. You would then say to them, hey, leave my computer alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So basically what this means is don't try to change something like on a machine just because you want to. Just leave it. If it's working fine, just leave it the way it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yes, we do use the word ain't in this phrase. At least I do when I say it. Let's see. I'm going to click here. Curiosity killed the cat. This is a pretty mean one, isn't it? Now, thankfully, cats have 9 lives, apparently. But what this phrase means is that sometimes you should not be curious. If you see the joke here, it's a good thing I was only mildly curious. So this cat was a little bit curious and just broke their leg. But this phrase basically means don't ask too many questions in certain situations. Don't try to be involved in certain situations because you might get in trouble or something bad might happen to you. Learn to walk before you run. I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me make it a little bit bigger. This is a ski jump hill. And I think when you learn to ski jump, you start on a very small hill and then you slowly try bigger and bigger hills. What this phrase means is this: you can't do something really well right away. You need to learn to walk before you run. When we talk about learning English, this is very true as well. You need to learn to read and understand English and write a little bit in English before you can have an English conversation. You need to learn to walk before you run. You need to do all the little steps. Probably the best example with English would be you need to learn 500 or 1,000 English words before you can do anything else in English. You need to learn to walk before you run. Always a good way to start learning something new, especially like a language. Hey, we're going to wrap this up in a sec. I got a couple questions left here. As you know, I've been doing slightly shorter lessons. Let's see here. I've been doing slightly shorter lessons on Fridays. I'm not sick, but I just want to ease back into teaching. So, and I think I was maybe overdoing it a bit with the amount of work I was doing on YouTube. So this lesson's a bit shorter. There is no live stream tomorrow. There is, however, a video coming out Tuesday, which I made in the snowstorm yesterday. So I think you will like that. But let's look at a few more questions and then we will wrap this up. Hobart says, hi, Teacher Bob. Why don't I... Let's see here. I think what you're saying is, why do I find it hard to put my thoughts or output my thoughts in English, and it's easy to understand what I listen to? This is very common. As you begin learning a language and progress, the first thing you're usually able to do well is read. The next thing is usually listen. When you start to write and speak, you now have to create English sentences. Instead of just hearing them or reading them, you have to create them, and it can be a bit challenging. So the best way forward is this: keep doing your reading and listening, do a lot of writing, and start to just practice your speaking and conversation as much as you can. Practice makes perfect. That's the solution there. Hey, that's the end. of this lesson. Again, I know it's a bit shorter than what I normally do on Fridays. I'll slowly work back up to a full 1 hour lesson, or maybe 45 minutes is good. I don't know. This is a nice little lesson. Please remember a couple of things. Number one, this lesson comes out in a shorter format. It'll be about 25 minutes long. I remove all of the viewer questions. So it's a nice compact lesson that works great to listen to one more time. I have in the comments, people have said they listen to the lesson a second time while they get ready in the morning. They listen to my lesson a second time while they cook supper. They listen to my lesson a second time on the subway, or they play it on their car radio when they drive into work during their commute. I have heard people say they listen to it again while they go for a walk. By the way, this does come out as a podcast as well. You can find a link, I think, in the description. So do listen to it again. Repetition when learning a language is repetition makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. So anyways, look for that. I do want to thank Todd and Dave for watching, and I'm just going to say bye to, or Todd and Dave for watching. They don't actually watch, they moderate. Thanks for moderating to you two. And I'm going to say bye to Hobart and Freddie Wolf and Funda and Judith and Lolly Lolly and Naomi and Baravilson. Thanks for the nice message the other day, Baravilson, congratulating me on a million subscribers. Nguyen, Anuat, Judith, Aya, Audie the Thai, Mode Eggs for sure. Funda, I think I'm saying names twice now. I'm just scrolling back through the chat. Bye to everyone. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out for about 45 minutes. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you Tuesday with another little English lesson. In the snow. I run into a snowdrift a couple times, I think. Yeah, it snowed a lot yesterday. You'll see in the video when you watch it. Anyways, bye.